Anthony Quinn has another starring role as a charismatic Conchus in John Fowles' intriguing story The Magus, also starring Michael Caine and Candice Bergen. That's the late film on BBC1 Scotland at 10:50 on Friday. Now the news headlines with John Humphreys.
The United States has admitted helping the Nazi war criminal Klaus Barbie to escape from Europe after the Second World War. And the Americans have apologized to France, where the man known as the Butcher of Lyon is accused of ordering 4,000 murders. A report by the Justice Department says Barbie worked for a while as an informer for the Americans. It says his appointment with justice is long overdue. We have delayed justice in Lyon. The Soviet Union has sentenced a war criminal to death. He's one of their own citizens who took part in the massacre of 140 people by the Nazis. The official news agency said the man had been hunted for 40 years and his final appeal for a pardon had been turned down. A Belfast man has been charged with murdering 6 members of the security forces in Northern Ireland. 25-year-old Gerard Steenson appeared in court on evidence from the informer Harry Kirkpatrick, who's himself serving life for murder. Steenson was remanded in custody for a week. A £5,000 reward has been offered for information about the 3 men who kidnapped and sexually assaulted a 6-year-old Brighton boy. The reward has been put up by a national personality who wants to remain anonymous. The British woman condemned to death in South Africa has begun her appeal against sentence. Maureen Smith hired 2 men to kill her husband. Now her father says he pressured her to do it. 5 appeal court judges in Bloemfontein will decide this week whether or not she should be hanged. In the Midlands, a mysterious kidney virus has claimed another life. A 59-year-old woman has died apparently from the same disease that's already killed a 2-year-old girl. Doctors think the virus may be present in food supplies. And finally, traffic police in Brazil have come up with a new approach for bad drivers. They send them to kindergarten. Traffic offenders are made to watch toddlers riding around play streets on tricycles. Before that, they watch a road safety film starring Donald Duck. That's all from the newsroom. Good night, or rather, good morning.
Now look ahead to OK Tonight on BBC1 Scotland. At 6:25, part 3 of the Doctor Who story, The Visitation. Then at 10 to 7, a new series of The Show Me Show. Maggie Philbin turns firefighter to tackle the tough training course. Also in the programme, the magic of the electronic paint box. In the film at 7:20, Burt Lancaster plays the Kentuckian, who sets out for a new life with his young son in Texas and falls foul of the local law. After the news, at 9:25, Sue Townsend's play Bizarre and Rummage, a funny and sympathetic look at the problem of agoraphobia. Everyman at 10:35 goes to New York to look at the last stand in the devastated Bronx district by a group of elderly Jews. Another exotic episode of Flamingo Road brings Wednesday night to a close on BBC1 Scotland. Now on BBC1 Scotland, the weather for Wednesday. It comes from Michael Fish.
Good evening to you. After today's rain in northern parts of the country, I don't think you'll need to water the garden for a while. In fact, some places had getting on for a couple of inches, Southport for instance. And it was all entirely due to this frontal system. It was almost stationary and little wriggles were running along it, and each of those wriggles produced an enhancement of the rain. As I said, that's not really moving very far, but I think very gradually, come say later tonight or more likely tomorrow, it will begin to push northwards again, and that means to say that the rain will go with it, getting into Northern Ireland, southern and central parts of Scotland. We've also got to keep our eye on this low pressure area to the west and this frontal system here, because they're swinging in towards us, and they may well produce some showers in other western parts in a day or two's time. But hopefully, I think with pressure remaining reasonably high on the continent, the southeastern corner still set fair, at least for another day or two. But let's look at the picture for midday tomorrow, because there's our problem lying across just the tip of Northern Ireland and into southern Scotland, that warm front, and of course it'll still be producing some cloud and outbreaks of rain, as indeed when we look at tonight it is at the moment in western and northern parts of Wales, the North Midlands and into northern England, a good deal of cloud with further outbreaks of rain, and possibly as time goes on that rain getting towards Northern Ireland, a little bit further north in northern areas of England as well. But the bulk of Scotland and southern and central parts of England and Wales, a fine and dry night. We've got the same sort of sandwich really tomorrow. So southern and central parts of England and Wales, a little bit on the cloudy side to begin with, but for most of tomorrow dry, brightening up with some sunshine, ending up reasonably warm again, 25 centigrade is well into the 70s Fahrenheit. In northern and western parts of Wales, the north of England and up into Scotland and Northern Ireland, there'll be a good deal of cloud. There'll be some rain around in these more southern areas to begin with, and that rain pushing on northwards, getting into Northern Ireland and southern and central parts of Scotland as the day goes on. But then, of course, at the same time, hopefully in some of these other areas, like in the rest of northern England and North Wales, the rain will ease off and eventually be replaced by drier and brighter weather. And the last part of the sandwich is the north of Scotland, where tomorrow should be dry, fairly bright, with some sunshine. Well, that's all for now. A very good night to you.
Now on BBC1 Scotland, the late-night Scottish news. 13 passengers and 2 firemen were taken to hospital tonight after fire broke out in one of the compartments of an Edinburgh to Glasgow train. They're not thought to be seriously injured. It happened as the train reached Cadder near Bishopbriggs on the outskirts of Glasgow. Ambulances took the injured to Stob Hill Hospital. The other passengers were later transferred into buses. A spokesman for British Rail said the cause of the fire wasn't yet known and a full investigation was taking place. The problem of asbestos in Scottish council houses seems to be more widespread than was first thought. After the discovery of potentially lethal blue asbestos in hundreds of homes in central Scotland, it's now believed that as many as 80% of council houses contain it. In Motherwell, where the problem first came to light, hundreds more houses and flats have been found to be affected. Now the Caroline Hogg murder inquiry, and the Lord Advocate, Lord Mackay, has taken what's believed to be an unprecedented step. He has promised total immunity from prosecution for road traffic offences to the driver of a pale blue Cortina which is being sought by police. The car was nearly in a collision 5 miles north of Coldstream, only an hour and a half after 5-year-old Caroline was last seen on the evening of July the 8th. A girl answering her description was seen in the rear of the car. Scottish miners' leaders have been told by the National Coal Board that Cardowan Colliery at Steps is showing losses of 10 times the national average. At a meeting in London before the board's appeals committee, the Scots were trying to prevent the closure of the colliery. But a Scottish official of the coal board said he couldn't recall Cardowan making a profit at any time in its 55-year history, and currently it was losing £30 on every tonne of coal produced. Scotland's doctors say they're even more concerned now about the future of the health service following talks with Scottish Office Health Minister John Mackay. A group from the British Medical Association met the minister in Edinburgh to express their concern at his demand for £16 million in savings by health authorities this year. Later they said the minister had given them no assurances about the future of the health service in Scotland. The Scottish Rugby Union have confirmed that the New Zealand All Blacks want to play matches here this winter. Over the next few weeks, the SRU will consult their member clubs to see how fixture lists can be altered to fit in the tourists. The move follows the cancellation of a New Zealand tour of Argentina. Finally, football and the results of friendly games played tonight. Alloa 3, Rangers 0. Celtic 1, Tottenham 1. And Queen's Park 1, St Mirren 1. Now here's the forecast for Scotland for tonight and tomorrow. Scattered showers in the northeast will die out, and all areas will have a dry night, perhaps with a touch of ground frost in sheltered northern parts. Tomorrow most of the country will remain dry with sunny intervals, but in the south, increasing cloud will bring outbreaks of rain later in the day. Temperatures will be similar to today's, possibly a little warmer in the north, and winds light and variable. And that's the weather forecast for Scotland. Finally, some news about a transmitter. Ramster Forest will be shut down tomorrow morning from 6 a.m. until 12:15 for aerial work by the IBA. That means that our first programme for the morning, CFAX AM, followed by breakfast time at 6:30, won't be seen in that northern area. But for all the rest of you, we hope you can tune in for at least part of our show. 6:30 breakfast time with Frank Boff and Sue Cook through till 9 in the morning. For tonight, from everyone here in BBC1 Scotland, with the time at 13 and a half minutes past 12, it's time to say good night and good morning.